through some of these results. We asked, obviously, how would you rate your overall experience at Revamp? 95% of members come back as excellent and 5% good. And we had nothing under that. So that was our biggest win, I think.
I think we should make these podcast episodes shorter. Do you know why?
Why?
Because we now have to pay for parking in this hometown of ours.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've just hit record and I'm just looking at the time now. So if we're in the middle of like a really interesting conversation, just warning the listeners that I may have to leave just to go and, you know,
cool.
Because obviously that takes priority.
Cool. Has anyone watched Family Guy and Mort Goldman when they put a bomb in his wallet and when he opens his wallet, it goes off and it never goes off for the rest of the time? Jacob Cardy.
Yeah. Guys, what we're going to talk about today, and this is probably going to be the last episode for a couple of weeks with both of us because I'm awaiting the imminent arrival of my son. So I don't know when this is going to be. I was thinking it might have even been before today's opportunity to record, but luckily, we are here to record nonetheless. And we're going to be covering the topic of client surveys, whether you should survey them. I mean, we were pretty reluctant at the beginning. We decided actually we were going to survey them. And, you know, we got the results here that we're going to share with you guys. Also, some of the lessons we've learned from that whole process and what we're doing now that we've got all of this data in and how we're going to actually, you know, allow it to inform our service and our marketing as well. So we're going to go through kind of what we did and how we came up with questions, all of that kind of thing.
I actually, just to throw this out there, I actually think it was the best thing we've done in our business so far.
I think it was the most professional thing we've done in our business so far.
Yeah, that too. That too. I definitely think it was the best. So I know surveys on a podcast sounds boring, but if you're listening to this, you are going to get a hell of a lot from this pod. So it's definitely worth sticking around to the end. Of course, I'm biased, but this was really good.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a pat your back kind of moment. I mean, we're just going to spend the whole episode basically with our egos inflated because the results we got back was really good, wasn't it? So I'm glad we did it with that in mind. But I think it's important just to kind of go back to when we decided we were going to do it and actually some of the reservations that we had and why we actually decided to ignore those and go ahead and do it anyway. Because you are not a huge fan of feedback. That sounds horrible, but there's a reason why you are reluctant to feedback, and I think it's definitely justified. And I think it's probably more down to how feedback is structured and positioned. Because I think if you are somebody that just likes going around saying, "Okay, what do you think of your service so far?" That is such an open-ended question, which could provide an open-ended answer, which actually doesn't really help push things forward. So
I think the reason I don't like it is not necessarily because I'm scared of the results. I think I'm potentially scared of the work afterwards. So this stems from our first gym, Open Gym, has over 1,000 members, and once about halfway to that 1,000, we surveyed those members, and we had like 200 different opinions come in, and it was just like ridiculous. And half of the stuff was like, "Oh, I'd like to have a swimming pool."
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Well, we don't have a swimming pool, so go out when it's wet in a puddle." Do you know what I mean? Like, so it can be really difficult. However, in our environment, obviously, small group PT, we have 85 members here, so it's a lot easier to do, and it gave us some amazing insight.
But I think so. Having obviously had a conversation with you about that and your experience with that, I think we didn't want to just kind of come up with 5 questions off the top of our head and just throw them into a form. We actually this time spent a lot of time just researching how to conduct a good survey. And I know that sounds really ridiculous and such a shite topic for a podcast, but it was really valuable in terms of like what questions you should include, what kind of answer, why the answers type is important too. So for example, like long text fields where they could just write loads of stuff like "I want a swimming pool." We kept that to a minimum, and we only included that for the questions that actually warranted an open-ended response. So in terms of like, again, going straight back to the beginning, I think if you're listening to this and you want to do a survey for your gym studio,
now is a good time of year.
Yeah, exactly. Or even your personal training business, I think it's important to understand what your objectives are first, because deciding on the objectives of your survey is probably the most important bit. And I know that sounds really simple, but if you don't know why you're asking a question or what you want to gain from people's answers, then there's not really much point in doing a survey in the first place.
So should we go through what our objectives were?
Yeah.
So number one was to measure satisfaction, so we could predict churn. So if someone come back and they weren't satisfied, there's a good chance that they would have churned quicker.
Yep.
So that's the number one thing. Understand time to value, so we can improve the front end offer that we have, the 6-week challenge. That was a big thing.
And these all merge into each other, don't they?
Of course they do. Measure word of mouth to reduce customer acquisition costs. Big one, quite transactional. Pair metrics to uncover trends. So we're going to take you through the results of ours in a bit because we come up with a big insight for that one. Turn insights into visual data to sharpen our marketing, so we could further get to know our market, our avatar, so we could point our marketing at those people. Identify member frustrations to make real improvements in the business and provide more value with the product. Yep. So those were the things that we wanted. And you've got a cool quote here that we put in our notes, which is, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. And that hit me hard when I read that, Jake.
I think so now that we've kind of understood what the objectives are, then we can easily then start to formulate the questions that we include. So, I mean, we had one of our clients the other day mention to us about he wanted to understand what the experience was like with some of his coaches from a client standpoint.
Yeah.
So that was one of his objectives. So it would make sense then to bake that into his survey in some way. So again, it's just really important that just because our objectives are those just mentioned, you might have your own. But in terms of the actual questions, we're going to just reel through them really quickly. So obviously we have to segment location because we need to actually understand what the experience is like at separate locations and how that data then represents itself from each location. So that was the first question of just simply what location do you attend. Then we went into how would you rate your overall experience at Revamp? And again, a majority of these question answer types are multiple choice. So they range from excellent, good, neutral, fair, poor. How satisfied are you with the coaching team at Revamp? Again, that kind of alludes to our client's issue as well. Not that we're experiencing an issue there at all. Just for any of our coaches listening, you're all awesome. Very satisfied, neutral, dissatisfied, and very dissatisfied. Have you, by the way, for somebody with a lisp to say dissatisfied that many times?
It was great to watch.
Have you achieved noticeable results since joining Revamp? Yes, I've achieved significant results. Yes, I've made progress, but still have goals to reach. No, I haven't seen results yet. If you've achieved results, how long did it take to notice them? Within the first 6 weeks, 6 to 12 weeks, over 12 weeks, or I haven't achieved results yet. And again, that one is important just to understand that front end offer and how we can increase retention. How would you rate the quality of your training sessions? Again, multiple choice. How likely are you to recommend Revamp to a friend or family member? That's our net promoter score, which is a common strategy used across multiple companies where they can actually start to look at trends and see, okay, what is our word of mouth rating? So again, that contributes to cost per acquisition. Which of the following have you noticed improvements in since joining Revamp? There's things in there like fitness, confidence, weight management, so on. Have you attended any of the events? And again, this is how we then pair the experience with events so that we can look at the data and we can say, okay, 80% of people said yes, they came to an event. Out of those people, 100% of people said their experience was excellent. So we were able to kind of pair these metrics and start to see, okay, we need to get more people to events because that contributes to the overall experience being rated as high. How would you rate the events? And then in terms of those open-ended questions we mentioned earlier, how would you describe the level of the service and support you received at Revamp? This gives people an opportunity to actually kind of offload. What do you love most about Revamp? And is there anything we could do to improve your experience? Okay, so those were the questions that we use. If you want a full list, just go to the newsletter issue. I'll put the link in the comments. In the comments. Those are the questions that we used, and we use a really simple form software called Tally. Again, I'll put a link to that in the comments too. It's a free platform, and you can just build loads of different forms using it. But the reason why I like it is because, especially for surveys, it offers a really good summary dashboard where you can actually see the data visually in front of you as well in terms of how many people are voting for each choice. So that's just a quick software tool to recommend there. So yeah, those are all the questions.
Yeah, love it. So increasing completion rate. So obviously once you built the survey, we need to get it out to all of the clients. So Jay, do you want to go through what we did? Because this was more kind of your wheelhouse.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one thing creating a survey, it's another thing actually getting people to complete it.
It's often the hardest bit.
Yeah, and it's one of those where, the survey is not valid if you only get 5 of your clients to fill it out.
Yeah.
Because it's only a kind of a sample of 5, which, is pretty useless. So we needed as many people to fill this out as possible. So again, we just relied on some psychology nudges within the opening message. So again, if you want a specific copy of what we use there, just head over to the newsletter. But we use urgency. So we just said before the countdown starts, this was on New Year's Eve that we actually sent this survey. Our thought process there was actually New Year's Eve, despite it being a holiday, is a day where most people are kind of like on their phones, especially in the morning because they've all got work off and everything. So that's why we chose that date. We lowered the barrier. So we just said, look, you can fill this out in less than 2 minutes. Again, which made people click and then fill it out. And then we had reciprocity as well, saying just thank you for being such an integral part of our community over this year. We appreciate you so much. Because, if somebody's hearing they're appreciated, they're more likely to return the favor and do what you want them to do. So there's various little things in there that we use in the actual WhatsApp message that we sent bulk out to all of our members to fill it out. I think something we would do in the future, especially at the end of this year, is perhaps offer like a really nice incentive to somebody pulled at random from the submission. So, one person will be chosen at random from those who complete the survey to win a something or other.
Yeah.
I think that would just push more people to fill it out. And again, that works for us because, again, the more people that fill it out, the more accurate representation we have of the business and therefore can make relevant changes.
How many data points did we get?
I think we got like 50 to 60 or so in the end.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Which is more than enough.
Yeah. So in terms of like leveraging the data and what we've decided to do as a result of getting this back, do you want to just quickly dive into, some of the results that we got back, and then we can talk about actually how we're going to use it going forward. So if you go onto the actual Instagram.
I'll go onto the post.
Yeah, because we actually on our Instagram too.
Yeah, we actually posted this on the Revamp Gym Instagram. So if you go to @RevampGym, and you can go to 2024 member feedback and you can go through it. But just to take you through some of these results. We asked, obviously, how would you rate your overall experience at Revamp? 95% of members come back as excellent and 5% good. And we had nothing under that. So that was our biggest win, I think. Then we asked, which of the following have you noticed improvements since joining Revamp? We had an array of things here. Confidence, energy levels, mental health. We had across the board, the heaviest, the most was strength, which is great, the weight work we do. How would you rate the events you've attended at Revamp? We had, again, 95, I think, % excellent and then 5% good. So people clearly like the events, which is awesome. It's a big part of what we do. Additional insights from our 2024 client feedback survey. We had coach satisfaction as very satisfied and satisfied, nothing under that. Time to notice results. Majority voted 6 to 12 weeks, which is pretty solid. Likelihood to recommend, way likely. I think it was like 95% said they'd recommend to a friend.
Yeah.
And then 5% said likely. No one was not likely. Quality of sessions, again, we were, I think, 95% excellent again.
Hey, quick one from us. If you're enjoying this episode, you'll love our free weekly newsletter.
It's for current and aspiring studio owners who are looking for the latest growth hacks to sign up more members and keep them.
It's a quick 2-minute email covering the stuff we're testing in our own gyms.
So you'll be getting access to what's working today.
If you're interested, you can join 3,500 gym owners and go to thefitpreneur.com and subscribe.
That's thefitpreneur.com. Anyway, back to the episode.
So a couple of ones there, just again from insights. So it's really interesting to see that the time to notice a result, and again, we weren't attributing results primarily to weight loss. It was just like some kind of result. Majority obviously put down 6 to 12 weeks, with the second coming in at 0 to 6 weeks. So again, we might look at that and be like, okay, right, we need to try and provide more results within that first front end offer, which would, be justified based on what we've got there. But again, this was very few and far between in terms of more people achieving results for 6 to 12 weeks. But I think if anything, that kind of stands a great reason to continue. Do you know what I mean? So like if you can say to somebody in the recommit meeting, like halfway through their front end offer or the 6-week challenge, for example, and just say, look, by the way, a majority of our members based on our survey said they experienced results between 6 to 12 weeks. So obviously the momentum that you've been able to gain initially
Yeah.
here can
Yeah.
be continued, and you'll start to actually feel and notice results in the next 3 weeks or so.
Yeah.
I think that can be really powerful in terms of how we then use that.
You increase LTV, don't you?
But then this kind of lends itself to the broader idea of actually how you can use data to inform not just your service but your marketing as well. Is Harry Dry, who I really admire, is a British copywriter who talked about this idea of, can I falsify it? And essentially falsifying it means that your statements can be proven true or false, right? So if you provide data to support your claims in the way that we've just been able to build through the survey, then nobody can argue with that, because the data is the data. Like, you can have a copy of all of our summaries, you can have a copy of everything. So I think, just as a general advice to other studio owners, personal trainers, or so on, if you're making claims about your service, whether it be, we're going to help you lose weight in 6 weeks, or this type of thing, do your absolute utmost to try and back that up with proven data. And it's up to you to be as creative as you like in terms of how you obtain that data. But I think if you can do that, then it puts you above your competitors straight away from just doing that. Because how many fitness studios do you know that have a full 2024 survey report based on what they ask members, and are willing to then give that away publicly? There's not many.
Not many. I mean, the beautiful thing about this is it gives us a bit of an ego drive, which is all well and good. But the most important thing is it uncovers areas of improvement. So where we can improve things, and a few insights that come back to us that members wanted more sessions.
Yep.
So we've looked at ways we can increase timetable. We've already we put in the Tuesday and Thursday, obviously, extra session. So we've listened to that already from the start of the year, which is good. More cardio. They love to sweat, apparently. So we're looking at ways we can explore different, maybe products within the product, and also expand time towards the end of the session.
And just to stop you there as well, like, again, this is something we've talked about before, but is how important it is to detach your own ego as a coach from what your clients want. Because as a coach, you might look at that and be like, well, they don't need any more cardio.
They need deadlifts.
Or like, we don't need ab exercises. Like, how many times
core with everything.
How many times have clients asked us, can we have more ab exercises? Like, that might be something that based on your knowledge, that isn't actually required, but it's still important to actually listen to your clients. And if you aren't going to add this type of thing in based on what they've suggested, then the least you could do is actually seek ways to educate them on how to train smarter. So you can still address that improvement without necessarily directly adding what they want. You know what I mean?
And then the final one was more check-ins they wanted, not chickens, check-ins.
Check-ins.
So right now we do body composition weigh-ins on request, but we're going to figure out ways in which we can make that slightly more scheduled. So that's kind of one of our goals for this year. But overall, very, very good. It was, I enjoyed getting the feedback for once in my life.
Yeah, I think it's taught us that, there is only ever good that can come from speaking to your customers.
Yeah.
I think if you ignore them, or you just kind of lead them just to get on with it, and you don't check in with them, or you don't empower them to feel like they actually have a say, then, you might see things start to decline.
Yeah. It tells you a lot about what you think of the product if you're scared to survey someone.
Exactly. And just to like end this with a real practical note of like actually how to, you might be looking at our Instagram, for example, and see these lovely visually appealing charts and bar charts and things based on the data that we got. Really practical way of doing that, by the way. So what I ended up doing is just exporting all of the survey responses, throwing them into ChatGPT, and then just having a conversation with ChatGPT where I basically was just asking, this is the data that we've got back from our survey. Give me some ideas on how I can visualize this data, as well as specific charts that I can use to visualize the data. And then it came back, was like, well, for this question, you could add in a horizontal bar chart with these options and so on. And I was like, great, perfect. And now export me separate CSV files for each survey question response. And then I took those files and imported them into Canva like charts. And then what you see on our Instagram is essentially stuff which has directly been taken from ChatGPT, thrown into Canva. That way I can kind of like customize it, add some colors and so on. And that's what you'll be able to see on Instagram if you go onto our Instagram. So, like, again, we have the tools to be able to do this type of thing really well. And not only that, but if you want to just export all of your survey responses, throw them into ChatGPT and just say, look, can you just analyze this for me and just give me some insight in terms of like the health of the business and what I can improve, then it can also offer like a full report in terms of like areas to work on. So yeah, that was really helpful for me.
No, awesome. I think that's pretty much it for this. This is not going to be an exciting thumbnail. How to survey.
Yeah, I need
members.
to figure out ways to better package this
But
video.
hopefully it was valuable. It was certainly tangible to you guys, stuff that you can go away and do. We'll leave the links to the questions and everything that you need to know in the comments below so you can go do this. January is a great time to do it. So if you're hearing this by the end of January, get it out to the guys because that is it's a really nice leverage point.
Also, a quick reminder about Launch Kit, which is our reimagined coaching program specifically for personal trainers or current gym owners wanting to launch or relaunch their own facilities. We're currently full at the moment. So if you want to join the waiting list, click the link in the description to do so. We basically give you everything you need, all the tools, everything that we've used ourselves to successfully launch 2 locations, and we're going to help you do the same thing. So if that is something that is interesting to you for 2025, then hit the link in the bio and we'd love to chat.
Cool. All right, Jake, you better go home before the baby.
I need to pay up
before the baby comes. That's the pod, guys.
See you later, guys. Bye.